Hi everyone, it's Jackie at Spare Room Studio. Today I'm going to colour in the new book by RJ Hampson called Hide and Seek, and Linda requested on YouTube that maybe this would be a good page to start with, the elephant in the room. I've had a couple of people mention different media they'd like to see me work in. Somebody mentioned Neo Colour 2 and Inktense, and I also saw alcohol markers or markers in general, I think, I'm not sure. So I'm going to work with alcohol markers to start with today, see how far I get. I'm feeling a bit low energy, so I want something really simple and relaxing, so I'm going to go for the alcohol markers to start with. And when I first saw this picture, I thought about this one, which is in Fantasy Tiny Homes, and I coloured that earlier this year, and I went with the pink elephants because I just thought pink elephants as soon as I saw that one, probably because it was a bit, you know, crazy of the jumping castle and so on. So today I'm in two minds whether to continue with a pink elephant theme or grey, but I would like the whole page to be colourful, so I think I might actually go for grey. And I'll go for different shades of grey maybe. So to start with, I'm going to pick maybe some neutral shades, and I'm going to use Ohuhu alcohol markers. I've got the 200 colour set. I don't know if they have a name because I don't pay attention really to that sort of thing very well. So I have a 200 colour set. Some of mine are starting to get a bit dry now, but I've got the bullet tip at one end, and I've got chisel tip at the other end. I would like some brush tips, but Ohuhu can be quite expensive to buy here, so I wait for sales before I, decide to invest in stuff like that. So I've chosen CG021, 022 and 023, which are all neutral grey. And I'll start with the lightest colour first. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be way too light. Might not even show up great on the camera, I'm afraid. But as I go on, I'll darken it up. So I'll start with the neutral grey first. And I might make the elephants all greys, but varying shades of grey, like different types of grey, just to get a bit of variety going that way, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm sorry, I'm a little bit out of breath, or I might sound like I'm a little bit out of breath. It is spring here in Australia at the moment as I'm recording this, and I do have hay fever and sinus and asthma issues, so I get a little bit out of breath sometimes when I'm talking, and it should settle down as we go along, but I've been moving around and doing stuff and so on, and then when I sit down I still sound like I'm out of breath for a little while. So I do apologise for that, but as you can understand, a lot of that is out of my control. So I'm bringing in a little bit of the CG023, still that neutral grey. These are all neutral greys that I've got in my hand here. And I'm just doing that slightly darker shade just to go to these areas where they will be, should be behind something, or potentially a little bit darker because there may be a bit of a shadow on them. But because they're behind something, a little bit of a darker colour just helps to describe that for your viewer a little bit better. And I'm going to do that for the marks. And I'm going to start reasonably conservative in my colour choices, and I darken up as I go along because there's a lot going on this page, and it's going to take me a little bit of time to perhaps get my mind straight with where I'm going with it. So I'm going to go back to the CG021 and do this guy over here. So I hope this video finds you all well. As I say, I do suffer with sinus, hay fever and asthma. It's something that I've had, you know, like I've had the asthma since I was a child, and allergies have got worse as I've got older. So it's just something that I deal with. It's, you know, just one of those things. And most of the time I keep it under pretty good control with medication. So antihistamines and preventer puffers and so on for asthma. But I just find this time of year is that little bit more challenging because of all the different pollens that are around. And I tend to be allergic to something nearly all year round, so there's always some level of allergy happening for me. But spring, you know, is that sort of really hyper aware time for all the pollens and so on. And here in Australia where I live in South Australia, which is in the middle down the bottom of the country. We haven't had a lot of rain this winter, and so everything is drying out really quickly. With the tiniest bit of heat, we're finding that things are really starting to dry out and go yellow really quickly for summer. And for the allergy sufferers, you know, that really doesn't help with the dust. And we start to get... Sorry, I'm just looking for colours while I'm talking, so that's the hesitation you can hear in my voice. There we go. So I'm going to move to blue-grey now, which is MG011 or 011, MG031, MG069, and that's all blue-greys. So I start with the lightest one, 011, and maybe we'll do this one in the chair here. So yeah, when it's windy and dusty, and this time of year we start to get a lot of northerly winds, and up north is where it's very dry and dusty in our state, but also further north from where I live is where a lot of the crops are grown. And those north winds really do push all the, you know, the pollens and the dust down into the suburbs, and so that makes it even more tricky. So a bit of an annoying time of the year, because I really love flowers. Sorry, that's 069, MG069. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep using that darker colour with the lighter colour to just keep sort of blending that out a little bit so that it softens any hard edges. You can see how that just sort of softens the hard edges. So yeah, it's a little bit challenging this time of year, and it's such a shame because I personally love plants and gardens, trees. Trees are some of my favourite, you know, things. I like to walk in places that are shady and have lots of trees. And so it kind of takes that joy away a little bit. But it is what it is. We have to deal with it. So MG031, that's sort of that mid colour that I'm going to just bring a little bit of that in as well. So what I try to do with the alcohol markers is pick a light, medium and dark in the same family if I can. So for example, blue-grey, I've been able to do that as I did there with the neutral grey. So I just try to do that so that I can blend those three shades without too many harsh lines, And I don't mind if there are some harsh lines with alcohol marker work, especially in an image like this, because it's more of an illustrative style. So I'm quite happy to leave some sort of, you know, hard edges there with it. That doesn't bother me so much, but I do like to try and blend it to a certain degree. I like to get a combination of different looks going on. So it's good if you can choose 3 shades in the same family. So now I've got yellow grey. So there's YG010, YG030 and YG051. So we'll start with the lightest one, 010. And I just thought for starters I will do the elephants in these different shades of grey. So if you're not familiar with alcohol markers, you can see that you get a lovely variation. It's a bit tricky here with the details. A lovely variation of greys within a lot of sets. And you think, gee, all greys, that's going to be boring. But they're sufficiently different. Like that blue grey really is just like a pale blue. So, you know, you can use them to good effect sometimes. So now I'm going to the middle one, YG030. And I'm just looking for those areas that would be behind or underneath and start, you know, getting in a little bit of a visual definition going on there so that you can see some of the details and you get an idea of form a little bit better. And this is a very humorous illustrative style that RJ Hampson draws in. So don't stress too much about knowing where all these things should go. YG051 now, because they're good sort of images to practice and play with to get those ideas for realistic details without having to get them right. Because if this was a portrait of a person, you know, and it was drawn in a realistic manner, you'd have to try and aim for a certain degree of accuracy to be able to portray that image, you know, quite accurately. But this is a lot of fun, and while some of those ideas do still transfer to fun illustrative images, if you don't quite get it right, there's a little bit less pressure on you, you know, to feel like you've achieved it. So that's why I like these sorts of fun images, because you can really play around with the different effects, play with different colours, colour schemes, play with your ideas on these fun illustrative images until you hit upon something that feels right, and then you can use that, you know, in your other images as well. So we've got a blue grey, neutral grey and a yellow grey. And what else have we got? We've got warm grey. So we'll just put those aside. And the warm grey, these are the ones that are starting to dry out for me, because I use warm grey as a neutral an awful lot. So I'm just looking for a bit of a range here, and hopefully they're all going to work. There we go, let's see how these go. So I've got warm grey 160, warm grey 180 and warm grey 190. And I've got a feeling that some of these are going to be a little bit dry, but I'll do what I can with the bullet tip, because I find that I always seem to dry the fine tip end out quicker than I do the bullet tip end. not bullet tip, sorry, chisel tip. What am I talking about? As I said, I'm a little bit low energy, so I've been feeling a little bit fuzzy-headed, as in, you know, I'm not really thinking on too sharply at the moment, but we'll do the best that we can. Okay, so that was the 160. So I'll go to the 180 now. And sometimes what I like to do is, you know, just leave it, but this time I'll try and blend that down a little bit. So you don't have to do your whole image, your whole picture or your whole page colouring with the same techniques. You can mix it up a bit, get a bit of variation going. A little bit of visual interest for your viewer. So every elephant doesn't need to be blended and coloured exactly the same way, you know, to get a nice result still. Okay, so that's a good start on him. And he looks quite dark, so I don't know if I really want to bring in anything darker. Let's just have a look. This is the 190. Yeah, it's all quite dark, so I don't know that I want to make it too dark. So I hope you are all well. I know I've got viewers mostly coming from the UK and the US when I look at the demographics of where you're all from, with a few of you from different countries throughout Europe and so on, and Australia. I don't tend to sort of go into current affairs too often because I'm not very well versed in you know, world events and so on, and I don't even watch the news every day because I find that it just, you know, brings you down sometimes watching the news every single day. So this one is called Shallow Camellia E180, and I'm going to go for a bit of a different look, maybe a bit of a muted look here on the mantelpiece. So yeah, I don't tend to comment on current affairs specifically because I'd hate to comment on one particular event and then miss something in another country and make, you know, you as a viewer, if you're from that different country, feel like what's happening in your country you know, isn't so important when in fact, you know, it is. So but what I will say is, you know, there's been some really terrible natural disasters happening recently and currently, and I hope if any of you are caught up in those things that, you know, you're getting assistance or help if you need it, and that you know, you're safe and well, because the whole world, there's just been things happening everywhere from one extreme to another, it seems, or that's how it feels. You know, and it's just really awful. really, really awful, and you just feel like what you're saying is empty platitudes. But I do feel for anybody that's going through tough times at the moment. You know, my thoughts are with you. So, you know, here in Australia, we are starting to get on alert for potential bushfire weather. We've already had a couple of extreme weather warnings, and we're only in November. You know, we're not even in summer yet, and we've already had extreme weather warnings, which is really, you know, early. And this is hazelnut E288. It's concerning for us because, you know, we've got a long hot summer ahead of us, and to already be getting those sorts of warnings already, you know, it puts people on edge if you live in a bushfire prone area. I live in the suburbs, so it's not quite a concern for me personally, but I have lots of friends who live in bushfire prone areas. So it's always a worry on the days where are extremely hot and extremely windy. And you know, it puts you on edge that little bit. So what I'm doing here, I'll just talk through a little bit, is I'm looking for tabletops, the mantelpiece, the picture rail, and I'm going to do the shelf. And this is hazelnut, so it's a very soft tan, I guess you would say, or a wood colour. So I'm going to use that for a neutral. And I'm actually considering doing the floorboards, but I'm not going to jump into that just yet. We'll leave that until we get later on. I will do this picture frame or mirror, and possibly that one. I'm thinking, you know, it looks a bit like a really nice cottage that we're looking at the living area here, and a bit old-fashioned, which is what I like. And I like natural woods, so I'm going to do it in like a potential decor that I can relate to. Okay, so we'll leave those colours aside because we'll probably bring those back in as we go along. Now I need to start thinking about colours for the sort of textile things, and I'm thinking maybe a soft blue, because it's not something that I normally go for. But now I know that my colours in my Ohuhu for the lighter blues is starting to go a bit dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm supplementing with a cheaper set here called HAUTMEC, and they were really reasonably priced on Amazon, and that is pale baby blue. And I'm thinking it's not in the 200 set of Ohuhu, but there may be something very similar to this colour in Ohuhu's anyway. So it's 144 pale baby blue in this particular brand. But if you have a marker set and you've got a pale baby blue or a baby blue, it's going to be very similar to that. So I know I said that I wanted it to be bright, but as soon as I started colouring those elephants in the greys, my mind automatically went to more muted pastel colours. Excuse me. I do apologise for that. So this is why I don't often start too much with a plan, because I like to adjust as I go along. I'd hate to have the colours all ready. Pardon me. I'd hate to have the colours all ready and out and start colouring and then think, no, they're all wrong, and have to think it through all again. So this is why I tend to start with a very, very loose idea and then let it develop on the page. Now, sometimes that doesn't work, and you know, that makes some people very uncomfortable to work that way. Might do this lampshade in this colour too. It can make some people very, very uncomfortable to work this way, but it's my natural working style. And if I work otherwise, I start to feel stressed. So, you know, please, if you're following me along here, just keep that in mind, that's how I tend to choose colours and work. And I'm not really big on full colour along, so I'm giving you all the colours today, but that's because I have been asked several times, can I do that? But I doubt that I will sit and list every single colour, because by the end of it I could end up with quite a few colours. So if you're following with me and wanting to do the same sort of thing, then it might be a case that you'll have to stop, pause the video, grab the colours that I mentioned, and then join in with me. But, you know, my idea is that I'd be much happier if you learnt to colour, you know, pick your own colours. You've heard me say what my philosophy is. I want a light, medium and dark, and I stick to that same colour family or colour tone. And, you know, I feel like you would be better served if you don't have these correct colours, that at least you know then that what you're looking for in your set is potentially a light, medium and dark, you know, of one colour family. So I'm going to do the little chair protectors or covers or whatever these things are called. I'm just, as I'm colouring, I'm looking around the page, and my goal is to get a fairly even spread of colour around the page, so that you know, that your eye will travel from the curtain possibly around the chair and up to the lampshade there. So it might be helpful to put the same blue down here on the rug as well. I can put other colours in with this, but as long as this colour is here on this rug somewhere, it helps to lead the eye around the picture. And I might leave that border and specifically to do a different colour border on the rug. See there, I've missed a little bit of the elephant. That was the blue-grey. So I've left all my colours out to the side here, so that for that reason, if I had missed anything and I want to come back, I can easily remember what I've used. I'm going to put that pale baby blue on the mouse's bow tie. And on the dress of the angel mouse here on the clock. And I'll also put it in the picture on the wall there as the sky in the picture. We'll worry about the sky out there later. So now I'm thinking maybe a slightly darker blue around the edge there, or a different type of blue. So I might go for, this is Ohuhu's pastel blue, B289. And this is starting to take a very different turn of colours to what my initial thought had been. And I like the way it's going actually. So I feel like I'm going to sneeze in a minute, so I apologise in advance if I suddenly do. The wind is blowing a bit out there today, and although I've got the window shut, it might still be getting in somehow. I might do the detail on the curtains in this colour as well. And I think I might do the chair in this colour. So this is, oh, hang on a minute. I've got two different coloured caps. This isn't pastel blue. This is B290 sky blue. I didn't think it was looking like I had envisaged from the name. I've mixed my caps up. So just bear with me. I've got to keep working. Once I start in a big area, you need to keep working and keep working into that ink that is still wet so that you don't get too obvious a streak or line. You want it to sort of blend smoothly, because the chair will probably be a nice fabric that's a nice even cover, or maybe it's you know, velvet. Okay, so let's get these lids sorted out. So it's not pastel blue, it's sky blue. There we go. This is what happens when you have several in your hand. You end up putting the lids on the wrong one. So that was B290 sky blue. I'm going to go for the light shades up there to be the same sky blue. But I'm going to have a coloured edge there. It looks like it's got beads dangling from the edge, so we might put some silver or gold or whatever metal we end up going for onto that as a feature. And I'm going to do the fireplace details that they've potentially painted in to match the decor there. The mouse got the same colour trousers. So what you can do if you don't have, for example, there's not 3 shades of that colour. I've got brilliant blue here. I'm just going to get a scrap piece of paper to, I could do that little bit up there. Right, this is quite a bit darker. It's called Brilliant Blue, B575. And I'm going to use that for these areas that might be shaded, and then while it's still wet I'm going to blend it out using the sky blue. Now just using subsequent layers of the same colour will darken it, but using that darker blue just gives it a much more vivid intensity than it would just by layering the same colour blue up. And they actually work quite well together anyway. So that was B290 Sky Blue and B575 Brilliant Blue. So they are actually working quite well. And I just, sometimes I work wet into wet, other times I let it dry. So just experiment and see what works best for you. But I find that I like to do a combination. And I'm just going to leave a very light edge there. If that doesn't bleed too much, just so that we've got a bit of variation and you can make out where the edge of that arm ends, and then you've got the deep shadow for the bit underneath. Okay, and this bit here would be quite a bit darker, and I'm going to make this a daytime scene, so there's not going to be very bright light sources, for example, coming from that fire, but what there will be is potentially deeper shadows, because if there's light coming from the window or above or whatever, there's still going to be quite dark shadows, but I'm not going to have that really bright, brilliant sort of golden glow from the fire, because I think in daytime you won't see that, or you don't normally see that. So I think that might be enough detail there, although we could possibly come down here just on that edge so that that has a bit of a point of interest. And now that's dry, I'm just going to go around there again where it's implying that there's like a, almost like a hem. Okay. Okay, now we'll start doing some of the smaller details next, I think, because I need to start introducing a little bit more colour in, but just slowly, so I'll go for some smaller areas. So I'm going to do, this is Tomato R872, and I'm going to do a little cherry on the top of there. What else might be red? Oh, there's one there. We could have some red books. And I don't want a lot of red at this stage, but just enough to sort of give little pops of colour. how about some red stripes on that vase, and we'll do that on the vase in the picture, and maybe the door on the house in the picture. Okay, and what else can I do? What other colour can I bring in with this? Something a bit different, that's a bit unexpected maybe. I'm thinking like a very muted pink. So what's this one called? No, I don't like that. No. That's for later. No. Let's have a think. That's quite a nice colour. That one is too. Alright, so what I've picked out here is E363 Red Bean, which might seem like a bit of an odd choice, but it's a very muted colour, really sort of indistinct colour. That will work, you know, with what I've got, hopefully. That can go for a bit of a shadow colour under the mantle there. Bit of a shadow colour there. And I'm going to do the pot plant in that colour. And I'm going to do the majority of this box. And then the other colour I picked up then was E189 Thin Persimmon, Persimmon, I think is how you pronounce it. And I'm going to use that for some other things on the shelf there. Use that for the base of the clock. It's very similar to that colour that I used there, which is Shallow Camellia. And I might actually do the window frame with this colour. And I'm going to leave the inner frame white for now. And we'll do the window ledge. Okay, I'm going to come back and do this fire surround now, and I'm going to do that in a grey. I will go for a different grey than what I've used so far though. I'm going to go for green grey, and what have I got here? I've got green grey 030, 080 and 090. So start with the lightest one, GG030 or 030, green grey, and I'm going to do the fireplace surround in that. Now most fireplace surrounds are black, and I don't want to bring black in because it's just far too dark for the colours that I've got on this page. So to start with, I'm just going to do the green grey, and I may use a black pencil later to come and you know, dirty it up a bit and rough it up, give it some texture and so on. But for now I'm just going to go for this green grey, and we'll go for 080 or 080, slightly darker for the pattern or detail that's on there. And the darkest one, 090 or 090. Just going to do a little bit along here. And unfortunately it has bled through a little bit onto that mantelpiece, which was hazelnut. So I'm just going to make that a bit darker, just to blend that in. So let's go back to the lighter colour here and help blend this in. And I'm going to do a little bit of dots, and that will just imply that that's a rough surface maybe, and then when I bring pencil in, that will help with all of that texture as well in there, hopefully. So the cupcakes, I think we might, again for a pop of colour, bring in something a bit different there. I'm going to use a green, and I'm going to go for 284 pale green, that's G284. And I'm going to do that the same colour as the pot plant. And I had some more books up here. Don't know if I want to use those on there, but they can go on those pictures on the wall. And we've got another plant there. So it's another little pop of colour. I want him to be holding blue books, so I'm going to go for the sky blue to start with. And pale baby blue. And I might put some metallic shiny something for the details on the books. I'd like this guy to have, this is the red bean for his jacket. I think I might leave that as a white mouse. And we'll do his shoes that colour too. And I'm going to do the actual window frame here in this red bean as well. thinking a metallic curtain rod. I'm going to go for the sky blue, no, brilliant blue. We'll go for the darker blue to do this detail here on the top of the wall. It's like one of those wallpaper, what do they used to call those, frieze or something? And some of these markers haven't been used quite so much, and they're very, very wet. They are actually bleeding past the line in some cases, but we can fix that up by using maybe an acrylic paint marker later, or you know, some sort of gel pen. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry for all the coughing and sneezing. Trying desperately not to do any sniffing. Okay, so, whoops, I've forgotten that side of the frame over there. Now, what did I use for that? I think it was this one. Now, that brilliant blue, I'm actually going to use that as a picture frame colour. And we might put that one as well. Righty-ho. Now it's starting to get a little bit trickier. I still don't know what colour to do the skirting board. I might do that in the brilliant blue actually. I don't know whose house this is, whether it's the elephant's house or the mouse's house, but they're going to have quite a vibrant decor colour sense, I think. I sometimes think when I'm colouring in a colouring book, I like to use the colours that I would not be brave enough to do myself when I'm colouring an interior. I think that's kind of fun because I've got quite a, you know, reasonably neutral sort of decor style and quite traditional and conservative. And so, you know, I like to think that maybe these characters would live in a really colourful house. So this detail on here, I'm going to go for I might go for a blue-grey with that. I'll go for the MG031 to start with. And I'm going to have to go for the chisel tip side because that is one of the drier markers. And quite often what I like to do when it comes to things like this is do the base here in alcohol marker, but then come back with coloured pencil and make it look a bit roughed up, scuffed up, chippy sort of shabby chic style paint. And I find that bringing the pencil over the top seems to be the best sort of technique for that. People are starting to come home from work. It's sort of getting to later afternoon and people are starting to come and go a bit, so you might hear a little bit of noise, I'm sorry. So this weekend just gone was the first weekend in a very long time that my son has had his weekend with my granddaughter, and we haven't actually seen them. So they were busy doing their own thing this weekend, and I think my husband found it a little bit strange and a bit too quiet, to be honest. He was looking a bit lost for a while. Because so far on the other weekends, my son has still been coming back to get things and pick up and drop off stuff and so on. So we've still seen her, and it was her birthday recently. But this weekend just gone, no, it was the first time that we haven't seen them. So, right, this is a really light pink colour, and it's called Pear Colour R195. And I'm going to do that for the cupcake icing. And I might start bringing that in for some of the other details. So I'm going to put that for the flowers on that picture. There's another one there. And what else can I do in this colour? Maybe do the interior of the clock face, just do that for now. And I'm going to do the bookend in that colour. I might actually do that as the edging on there. And this might go really wrong, but I'm going to use it for the wall colour. Spur of the moment decision. So I'm just going to block that in with the chisel tip. And it doesn't matter if this doesn't blend evenly. I'm going to have to change that mouse bookend now because he's not going to stand out against the wall colour. But this wall has got all different marks and stuff on there, like maybe it's rendered or stucco or, you know, some sort of texture to it. So if it doesn't go completely smooth, it's not going to matter. And it will be another surface that might be nice to come back with the coloured pencil to finish it off, to practice doing, you know, a sort of textured look. So I'm trying to get in close to those details without going over the lines, but if I do, it's not going to be too big a deal because I plan to bring in some shiny metallic gel pens or something for the wall sconces and the clock and those sorts of details. So I try to stop just before the edge of the items to try and limit how much the alcohol marker bleeds over lines. But if they do, we can fix it up with different acrylic pens or gel pens or whatever. Don't stress about that too much. So this is turning out to be quite a different colour scheme to my initial thoughts. I was thinking of, you know, that sort of primary colours in bright saturated vibrant colour, but I'm quite liking this so far. And I'm thinking like a copper or a rose gold would actually be quite nice for some of these metallics. I'll have to go through my pen collection and see if I've got anything that hits that mark. So I'm just using the edge of that chisel tip there to try and get in sort of close, but not too close. And then just finish off with that finer tip. And we'll go along there next. Now regularly I would say try and get all your strokes to go in one direction when you're colouring walls. So if you start going side to side, keep going side to side. If you go up and down, keep going up and down. But with alcohol markers, if you work quickly, you can blend it in and you don't tend to get those streaky lines quite so much. And the fact that this is going to have texture, a textured finish is, you know, it's not so important. So I don't want to turn the book. So that's why I'm sort of going every which way at the moment, but I would not normally recommend that. But alcohol markers, as long as you work quickly and keeps that sort of wet edge going, they're pretty forgiving. Now these vases are starting to get a bit lost, you know, and this bookend is going to have to be darker, so we might go for the red bean. For that. That one's, we'll wait and see how it goes. I'm going to use that red bean to go around the frame here. I was thinking metallic, but maybe not. I'm going to have a lot of metallic here, and maybe that one, the clock. So back to the brilliant blue, which is the deeper blue. Apologies for the coughing. Now I did put aside a soft yellow, buttercup yellow. It's not very yellow at all, but I'm going to do the little bird or duck or whatever that is there in that colour. And I'm actually going to do that for the floorboards, I think. So this is E294 Buttercup Yellow, and to me it looks very little like yellow. So I'm just trying to get these tighter details done. And then we'll go with the side of the chisel. So it's doing a bigger area, but not a huge, big area. Again, the floor's not going to be perfect, so I think we'll get away with if it's patchy or a little bit rough and ready. So just recently I've been trying to think of these different sort of colour schemes, or use different colours out of the marker sets that don't, you know, regularly get used. They're not favourite colours, just so that I can use some of them up. And just to sort of change things up, you know, a little bit, to give me a little bit of a boost. I've not been feeling like I don't want to colour, but I've been a little bit predictable, I guess. And my pages were all starting to feel like they were coming out the same, regardless of the artist book or subject or whatever. I just seem to keep reaching for the same colours over and over. And so I've been challenging myself a little bit to try these weird and wonderful combinations out and see what happens. And you know, every now and again you sort of hit on something that you think, yeah, I really quite like that, that's different. But it just helps keep me engaged and enthused to keep working and trying, you know, different colours and so on. Just changes it up enough for me to reinvigorate my interest levels a little bit. And I think the cover for this book, I really love the colours that RJ has chosen to do the cover art, and I think that sort of piqued my interest a little bit too. I think I've just gone over one of the elephant's legs there. Not quite sure, but I think I have. Doesn't really matter. So until we start getting real dark shadows in and get, you know, a bit of drama happening, I'm just going to do a little bit extra of that as a shadow colour. Let me just take a step back and see how that looks in the camera screen. It's okay. Now, then, I think this is a mirror. I'm never quite sure how to do those, but I'm going to use the yellow grey 010. And do it a bit sort of rough and ready, and I'm going to maybe put some white pencil on there, or maybe use the colourless blender just to take a bit of colour back out, and we'll see how that turns out. And that can also be used, you know, in areas like this to take some colour back out if it's looking a bit too solid and you want a bit of interest. And then you can come back with the coloured pencil and exploit that a bit. Like here, I'm going to do it in the rug, just to imply that there's some texture. And then I'll use the marker to reinstate a bit of a shadow. And then we'll do some darker dots and dabs. And then when that's dry, we'll have a look at it and see whether it implies that it's, you know, some sort of textured surface or not. If it looks terrible, I can just colour over the whole lot again. Okay, now the fire, we'll go for what will I use? This is pastel yellow, Y494. And I'm going to see if I can find that buttercup yellow. Just to sort of blend that and give it that same tone. And then the back of the fireplace here, I used yellow grey. So that was 051. Now where was the lighter one? 030. Because daytime you can see the fire without it actually necessarily lighting up what's around it. So I feel like the back of the fireplace would be quite dark, where the fire isn't actually lighting it up. Okay. So I need a really light pink. We'll go for that pear colour. We'll do the inside of the mouse's ears and also his nose, his tail. I might just imply that that's some sort of a picture. So let's do pale baby blue. And we'll just do like a bit of a shadow there. Do a bit of blue background behind this mouse. And I think that mouse can be wearing a red outfit. This is buttercup yellow. I'm just going to touch that into the center of those flowers and also use it for the background for this particular mouse. And that pale blue we'll do behind the bird or duck or whatever that is there. We'll also do it around this flower. I'd like a really nice cream. Let's have a look. What about pale cream? It'll be a very pale yellow creamy colour for the cups and saucers, and I'm going to do a bit of a metallic rim around the top. And the teapot can be the same colour. And I'll do some shiny metallic on there as well. I think the coffee table here can have sky blue little inset colour here for that bit of detail on there. And I forgot to do these bits earlier. I thought I might do it in a contrast colour, but it doesn't really need a contrast colour. Just do a bit of deepening up of details. Let's go back to pale baby blue. And buttercup yellow. And just missed a tail there. Not sure what this is in here. I don't know if that's part of the elephant or not, so I'm going to make an elephant. So a lot of the rest of the details now are going to be gel pen and pencil, I think. So what I might do is end this particular video here and do part 2 as the sort of finishing off. And I'll show you how I would end up finishing off all those details that I was talking about. So if you are still with me, I would like to say thank you for spending an hour or so with me on this first part of the page, and I will be back really soon to finish the page off in part 2. So thanks for being with me, and I'll see you soon. Bye now.